This assignment is going to show you how to create a 3D dimensional painting from scratch. So there's nothing here to download. We literally create all of this in Photoshop. So go ahead with Photoshop open, create a new canvas. And this canvas is going to be an 8 by 8 canvas. So you'll probably have to change these numbers to be 8 by 8, 300 resolution. Make sure it's set to inches. And you want to title this sphere painting. Okay, please title your work so you're able to find it when you need to turn it in. Okay, your canvas should be a square. And for the first part of this, we need to create our background. So in our setting that we're going to make, it is going to have like a light shining from the top left corner. So the easiest way to set this up is to use your gradient tool. You'll see the gradient tool is kind of halfway down your toolbar, and it looks like this. Okay. Up here at the top, you want to set it to be this preset black and white. Yours could be set to one of these colorful gradients. Set it to be black and white here, and also ensure that it's set to your linear setting here. Okay. So what you want to do is drag here from the bottom corner, kind of go off the page a little bit, and drag up here past your top left corner, like so. And it's going to create, a nice transition from light to dark. So it looks somewhat like we have a light shining from that top left corner. All right, so now let's go ahead and start creating our sphere. So a sphere is built from a flat shape. Easiest way to do that is just go ahead and use your ellipse tool here. So it's kind of grouped here with your shape tools. So ellipse tool, drag out a perfect circle. If you push your shift key, it will force it to be a perfect circle. So please, once you drag your circle out, hit shift and create an ellipse. All right, so mine defaulted to pure black. That's going to be very difficult to paint. So I'm going to change my fill here up here to be a mid-tone gray. So you want it to be like kind of halfway here. Okay, so I just selected that from my color picker. Do not have it have a stroke. It does not need to have an outline on it, and have it kind of sitting here in the middle of your page. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start painting this to make it look 3D. So three-dimensional objects should have a highlight, some sort of mid-tone transitioning into your core shadow, and then typically you'll have a reflected light at the bottom. So with digital painting, in order to actually start painting this, we have to rasterize this shape. So I'm going to right-click here and rasterize layer, and you'll see that little icon went away. So with digital painting, it's important that you create some sort of selection to keep the paint inside of the shape. So you could use your magic wand, select your shape here, because that way when we start like painting, see how it keeps it inside. Otherwise, if you don't have that, it's going to go all over the place. So you want to have your selection here. So with my selection active, I'm going to go ahead and start painting in some shadows. So up here on my paintbrushes, I have a really soft brush. So you'll see here you have a lot of brushes. Make sure it's an actual paintbrush. Okay, this next one here is the smudge tool. You do not want to use that. Use a fairly big brush. So I'm going to set mine to, around 500. And I'm turning the hardness all the way down. So it's a nice blurry brush. It's going to have a nice transition. And I'm going to go ahead and grab almost like a pure black. Okay. I'm actually going to make my brush larger. So I have like an 800 pixel brush. And I'm going to create a shadow. So if the light's coming down from the top left, this here is going to be in shadow. That's really dark. So what I'm going to do is lower my opacity, typically between 20 and 30. And I'm going to slowly build up my tones. If you start super dark, it is going to be, the transition's too much and it's not going to blend well. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm clicking and I'm doing a sweep kind of and almost in like a circular motion that follows the form. Okay, so click and kind of sweep across. Okay, now I'm going to switch to white and I'm going to build up my highlights up here. So a nice way to do that is to start with a big brush and just click once. I'm using my bracket keys to make my brush slowly smaller. Okay, and then I just kind of build up that highlight there. Okay, so it looks like a nice highlight here. And then we need to create our reflected light. So I'm going to turn my opacity really, really low. I want to make my brush big again, so I'm using my bracket keys. I'm just going to pop in a little bit of a light that's reflected off the surface it's sitting on. Okay, and that creates more realism. All right, so that looks good. So I'm going to deselect. And we need to create a shadow here because right now it's just kind of floating in space. We're going to kind of ground this. So I'm going to use my ellipse tool again, set my fill to be black. Okay, you can use any method. And I'm going to create a shadow that kind of is like an oval that if this is shining down, the shadow is going to go to the opposite direction. Okay. Shadows are always beneath their objects, so I'm going to drag ellipse 2 underneath, like such. Okay. This is a very harsh shadow, so I'm going to fade it. So I'm going to right-click and rasterize my layer, because if you don't rasterize it, you can't really do a whole lot of heavy editing, like painting and erasing. I'm going to now grab my eraser tool, set my eraser tool to 0% hardness, and I want to actually set this to be a bigger size, so maybe again in that that's a big jump, 400, 500 range. Lower my opacity. I'm just going to kind of slowly fade out the shadow, okay, like so. Another thing we can do is blur it. So if I go up to Filter, go down to Blur, and choose Gaussian Blur, it is slider based, so if I bring up the slider, see how it's starting to blur my shadow here? And that looks pretty good, so I have it blurred between 30 and 40. Okay, and hit OK. And that looks pretty good. So from here, you can transform your shadow if you want to make it larger, whatever you need to do to make it look good for you. And from here, that's it. So go ahead and save this as a PSD and a JPEG. Turn in your JPEG to me and turn it into Classroom. So that's it.